it's got to clearly depend on how bad the shot is, though. Because if you get fouled and knocked unconscious and then you come back,
you're just going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
If you get knocked out, that's why boxing, right?
With that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delayed symptoms.
It's like a big part of it is speed. Anthony Joshua has that kind of speed.
Joe Rogan reacted after Jake Paul was taken to the hospital following the knockout by Anthony Joshua. While talking with Daniel Cormier, Rogan said the punch looked extremely powerful. He explained that boxing is a very dangerous sport. When a fighter is hit cleanly at the highest level, the damage can be serious and long-lasting. Rogan also said that fights are unpredictable, and one punch can cause permanent damage that stays with a fighter for life.
He was done.
He outboxed him for the rest of the round.
How? But again, in MMA, fight probably would have been over, and he would have took less damage.
Right, but isn't that a better argument?
Sports doctor Brian Sutter explained the knockout from a medical point of view. He said the fight ended mostly as people expected. The real concern came when Jake Paul said he thought his jaw was broken. According to Sutter, a broken jaw was very possible because Anthony Joshua's right hand landed cleanly on the left side of Jake's face. However, he said a concussion was the bigger concern. He explained that jaw injuries are often less urgent at first than possible head, neck, or airway injuries. The punch caused Jake's head to rotate suddenly and violently. This likely sent strong force through the brain and brainstem, increasing the risk of concussion. Even though Jake was not fully knocked out, delayed symptoms were still possible. Jake's shocked reaction showed he knew something serious had happened.
Outcome that we all expected. After the fight, though, Jake told Ariel Helwani that he was worried that he had broke his jaw. He said multiple times he was concerned that he had a fractured jaw. And certainly looking at this knockout punch that Anthony Joshua delivers, it is absolutely a possibility that Jake does in fact have a jaw fracture. I'd honestly be more concerned about a concussion. In fact, with most jaw fractures, the more important thing initially is to look for other injuries to the head, to the neck, to the airway. The jaw fracture potentially being there or not is going to be lower on the list often than whether there's damage to the airway, damage to the head. And so very possible to have a concussion or some residual symptoms from this, as Jake Paul's head is relatively still here. We see AJ comes in with that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delayed symptoms. But you can see where the punch comes in, landing square on that left side of Paul's face. Jake's reaction was pretty telling too. Right away after it, we could see him going down on the canvas here and being very shocked. It doesn't look like there's any obvious deformity to the jaw. We won't necessarily always see a deformity to the jaw, but you could tell he clearly had realized that something serious had happened there and feeling the full power of AJ's right. And finally, on this last view, we can see a little bit better the exact location where the punch comes in. We'll talk about our jaw anatomy, the different areas of the bones, but your temporomandibular joint, where your jaw articulates with the rest of your skull, is sitting right around in this area, and the jaw is roughly coming down in this orientation. And so where that punch comes in from Joshua is a little bit more kind of flush right in the center of the mandible, but also...
Joe Rogan had already warned before the fight that it would not end well for Jake Paul. He said Jake was used to fighting older or retired opponents. This time, he was facing one of the best heavyweights in the world. Rogan warned that the skill and power difference would be dangerous and unforgiving.
What do you think about Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua?
Boy. Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division. Maybe we should watch the Francis Ngannou fight so you could see. Let's watch that real quick, just so you can see what Anthony Joshua is capable if he's fighting someone that's not in his league. Okay, look, Usyk beat him, and he beat him twice, and Andy Ruiz caught him in the first fight and dropped him and stopped.
Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua created strong reactions across the boxing world. Some fans praised Jake for his courage and willingness to face a dangerous opponent. However, many respected boxing voices strongly disagreed. Luke Thomas was one of the loudest critics. He said the praise was exaggerated and that people were cheering Jake just for surviving, not for competing. Thomas pointed out that Anthony Joshua did not fight at full power and clearly held back. In his view, this was not a real competitive fight. Jake did not show skill, growth, or smart tactics. Instead, he looked overwhelmed, struggled to engage, and showed little real intention to win.
Watched the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight. I think I would say that my conclusions now still match most of what I said when I was watching on the initial broadcast, which is that Joshua, he did look a little rusty to me. I'm sorry, but he did. That Jake is, probably a little bit better than we suggested he might be. When I say we, I mean like the hardcore fight community, the fight fans, the people who work in the industry to a degree. Sometimes there is a suggestion that he can't do anything. And I would be like, well, that's a little much. He can do stuff. I mean, it's limited what he can do. It's very limited what he can do. But there is a little bit too much anger towards him sometimes, or just dismissiveness, maybe is a better way to put that. And I don't really co-sign on some of that. He's got some ability. He's not good. Listen to me very carefully. He's not good. But is he the caricature that he is sometimes made out to be in terms of his pure boxing skill? I think it goes a little overboard sometimes. But that isn't the reason why I wanted to make this video. What I wanted to make this video about is two things. One, after the fight was over, I got on social media and people were like hugely negative about the fight. And I did not think that the fight was good. In fact, I thought the fight was, like most Jake Paul fights, pretty bad, although him surviving kind of feeds into the story of him being perhaps a little bit better than we sometimes think, although I don't really co-sign on that. Let me make the point. The first point is, I think people are overreacting a little bit. People were suggesting when I got on social media that this was like the biggest farce they'd ever seen in their life, and that this was, how could he fight like this, and this was a disaster, and Joshua should have got him out there earlier. There is probably some evidence to suggest that I don't think Joshua was carrying him in the sense of, hey, they coordinated this ahead of time. But was Joshua really stepping on the gas? No, I don't think he was really stepping on the gas. There were times I think he clearly pulled.
Lawrence Waukee looked at the situation from a safety perspective. He said boxing is extremely dangerous and that one mistake can end a fight instantly, no matter how famous a fighter is. From his view, Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua was reckless. He said mismatches are still dangerous, even if they bring attention. He called the decision unnecessary and foolish, especially because the outcome could have been much worse. Despite the criticism, some people praised Jake for taking punishment and continuing. After the fight, reports confirmed Jake was taken to the hospital with a serious jaw injury. Some saw this as proof of toughness. However, even those giving him credit stopped short of calling him a true professional boxer. The praise was about bravery, not ability. In boxing, courage matters, but it is not enough on its own. Taking damage does not prove skill, and this injury raised serious questions about whether these kinds of fights should happen.
The hospital, I think I broke my jaw. We all know he broke his jaw. We all know, we've seen the x-ray. There is a video of the x-ray that he showed us on his Instagram, so that was no AI. And it showed where his jaw had to be reconstructed and, wired, right? So he can't have any hard foods for a while. And again, I think Jake Paul is going to get respect for that, because it's one thing, because we all know about Jake. I think the problem with Jake was he was bullshitting us by giving us fights that we didn't want to see, for one, and for two, wasn't giving us fights most of the time of the people that could beat him. He gave us Tommy Fury, and then Tommy Fury actually beat him, which, whatever. But he did drop Tommy Fury with a left hook, so that was an impressive thing he did against the guy. Can't say the only guy now, because AJ fought him and knocked him out. But other than that, though, fighting Mike Tyson, Anderson Silva, which Anderson Silva showed that he is still very dangerous and very, very ready at 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like, what he did to Tyron Woodley was classic Anderson Silva. He picked his shots. You know what I mean? He moved with grace, he moved with wisdom, and he knew exactly what to do. And again, he should have went over to boxing a long time ago, but Jake beat him. So that just made Jake's, stock rise, right? In the sense of
fight for me to evaluate, because on the one hand, Jake's come a long way, so you want to give him credit for that. But on the other hand, you want to get in there with AJ. You want to talk about you're going to beat AJ up and then you fight in a certain way. It's very hard for me to kind of give the right amount of credit and criticism here because the backstory is so inspiring, but the performance was not inspiring in some ways. I think for me now, I just want to see Jake Paul in a fucking competitive fight. And that's the problem with the direction he's been going in, is he puts on big fights, but not competitive fights. Fighting Chavez Jr., that was an easy win. Nate Diaz, an easy win. Mike Tyson, an easy win. Anthony Joshua, not competitive for the opposite reason. He's completely not expected to win, and it wasn't competitive. He stacks the chips too heavily either way, and because of that, we never actually get to find out how good Jake is. And part of that, I think, is maybe deliberate, because then we never know, and the storyline can go anywhere. And while you don't know really how good he is, there's always another dream to sell, and it's almost genius level promoting. It really is. But for his own sake, you're getting into your late 20s now, your physical prime, you're only going to ever find out how good you really are by getting in there with people who are of the level that you claim you're at the right weight class. You are not a cruiserweight. You've got a layer of, body fat on you. You can't be doing that in boxing. If you're a serious boxer, you don't get in there looking like Jake Paul looks. You look shredded. And that's why really he's a light heavyweight. But fuck it. If you want to be cruiserweight, be a cruiserweight. Regardless, just fight people who are now ranked, and let's find out where the fuck he is. Because surely, these money grab Tyson fight, the AJ fight, he's packed that bank chock full. And credit to him. Even if he has hustled people or whatever the fuck, credit to him. One of the best promoters in boxing history, actually.